Hello, and welcome to the weekly broadcast of Strategic Speaking for Results. I'm Elizabeth Bachman, your host, and I'm joined today by my awesome friend, Erin Thomas, who is a writer and a content strategist. Welcome, Erin.
Hello, Elizabeth. Thanks for having me.
So Erin and I have been collaborating on the concept of how do you leverage your material for other mediums? If you have a speaker, how do you turn it into an article and vice versa? Today, we're going to focus on how to turn your speech into an article. And for that, I wanted to ask Erin to lead us through this because this is her specialty. So Erin, take it away.
Wonderful. Let's see. Before we really dive into specifics, I want to set the stage for a minute. Let's imagine that we are settled down in our comfy reading nook with our favorite magazine. We flip to an article by Maria. Let's say Maria is an estate planning attorney, and she has written an article all about the reasons estate planning is so important, the reasons that we should be, planning in advance, the importance of wills. It's well written, it's well organized, it's entertaining. We read it start to finish, feeling like we're really invested. We get to know Maria, and at the end of the article, we immediately pick up the phone to call Maria to schedule an appointment.
Wonderful. Didn't we have a slide for that?
Oh, we did. There we go.
Great.
There's Maria's article.
Now, imagine that you're listening to Maria give a speech, and she's talking about estate planning, how important it is to have a living trust and a will, or whatever it is in your country. And you are charmed by her. You're informed. Her presence and her charisma get you all excited. She's warm, she's funny. You think, I need to know this person. So as soon as it's finished, you go up to her, assuming you're live, and say, I'd like to make an appointment to come in and talk about my will. And of course, if it's virtual, you click on the link and say, yes, I need to make an appointment.
Absolutely. So here's the thing, whether she has given this valuable information in a speech or whether she's written it in an article, we have finished consuming her message, feeling motivated, inspired, engaged to take action. So Maria is satisfied that she has delivered her message wonderfully, and she has gotten a client or 2 or 5 out of it, right? So it's perfect.
Exactly.
But
what if it's reversed?
Yeah.
What if Maria stands up and on the stage where she's giving her speech and she just reads her article out loud? Or worse, she puts the text up as a slide and turns her back to the audience and reads it. We've all seen that, and it's boring. Or if she's got an article, it's kind of chatty, as if it was a speech. Erin, you've seen those.
Very long-winded and very unorganized. You finish reading it, or if you finish reading it, you're left kind of uninspired, right?
And this would be a place to ask you. You mentioned that you talked about this, and I always thought that if something was published, there was an editor that would edit it for style and content. Do the chatty, long-winded ones actually get out onto publications?
They do. And it's not to say that there are not still publications out there with wonderful editors and a lot of measures taken before something goes to publication. But today, pay to publish is a big thing, and it's growing every year. So what happens is it can be a lazy alternative for some people with their content. And if they don't take care to make these, to address these nuances that we're talking about, that's how we end up with these long-winded, chatty no direction articles, because it happens because they just simply paid the money to put it out.
Which means they probably used a transcription service, and that was that, which actually is a waste of money if you think about it, because if they paid to have it published, but it's not well written, people are going to think bad things about you.
Exactly. Which is exactly why you and I really got into this, is because yes, we need everyone to be acknowledging I'm not against pay to publish. I just want people to utilize it to their full advantage. I want them, if they're going to pay the money, make the impact.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I think this would be a good place for me to actually introduce you, Erin, officially. Erin Thomas is an acclaimed professional writer, sought after storyteller, and creative messaging specialist. She's seen time and time again the incredible power of compelling content. For the last 20 years, she's worked with entrepreneurs, business leaders, and individuals from around the world to elevate their ventures using bold, scroll-stopping messaging. I love that phrase. That feels in perfect alignment with who they are, what they're doing, and why. She refers to herself as a professional leaper, and she's made it her mission in life to take big leaps. She had history with an ad agency. She's got a master's degree, decided she didn't like that, and launched into what she's currently doing, helping others write better and publish better. She's committed to building a magnificent existence that's authentically, unapologetically her, helping others to do the same. She likes to say everyone should own their story. And for Erin, it's a life full of faraway lands, powerful storytelling, deep connections, joyous music, big love, unbridled freedom, endless play, and giant slices of cake. And you're living in Germany right now, where they're really good with giant slices of cake, yes?
They are better than good with giant slices of cake. Very happy.
Oh, good. Well, I think let's leave it with cake then, and tell us, why does this matter?
This matters because if we are not fully leveraging all the different mediums available to us, we are not only leaving money on the table, but we are leaving so many opportunities for impact, for education, for value. So really, if we're only staying in one small area, we're missing the boat.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's also important to remember that your audience, they're going to be readers, watchers, and listeners. There are people who prefer to watch a video. There are people who like to read an article. There are people who like to listen. And if you're only doing one, then you're losing out on the others, the way the others like to learn.
It's exactly true. And I think it's really important for all of us to remember that we have audience members in all of these camps. We can't be naive to think that we only are speaking to the ones in our preferred medium.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that brings us to a good place to start when we talk about the elements of a good article. And so audience is the perfect place for us to really launch. And here's what I'll say about that a lot of times when people write their articles, they just assume that they're right. Well, obviously, if I'm writing an article for publication, I'm writing for my readers. Mm-hmm. But when you start dissecting the process and you start looking at the content that's coming out, a lot of times what we realize is that we were actually writing for ourselves based on what we know, what we are passionate about, what we get lit up by, right? So the first thing we can do is to put ourselves, empathetically, I guess, into the shoes of our readers and always write from a place of who are we speaking to? What is it that what do they need? What are they looking for? How can we provide that for our readers? I think
that's the same for speaking, because I always say that's rule number one, make it about them. And when you're writing about yourself or talking about the thing that you're excited about, The trap is to do too much how and not enough why.
Yeah. And we all fall victim to that.
We all do it. I did it working on preparing this. Remember, you had to come in and fix me. Yes. So
yes,
yeah.
It's I mean, the things that light us up, we can't even fathom that the other people don't get excited the way we do. So it's really important. We want to convey that excitement, and we're going to talk about that a little later. But we want to convey the excitement, but in a way that makes it very clear that we are speaking for our audience.
Mm-hmm.
So the second thing I'll get into is structure. And this is a word that I think a lot of people hear and you get a little pushback on, and it might be like this in speeches too. But when people hear structure, they hear confinement, they hear that they're limiting themselves. But here's what I'll say about structure. It is actually what gives written communication the freedom. It's what gives it its impact. Let's see, an example that I like to use is a pilot. Let's say we get on a plane, you're walking down the aisle, you make your way to your seat, taxi away from the gangway, down the runway and up. The pilot is not deciding in that moment which direction he's going to fly. Or she. At what altitude she's going to fly, for how long, none of these things. The only goal for the pilot in that moment is to get you safely to your destination. And she is not wasting any time or energy in your flight deciding these things because it's already been done in advance. And our communications are no different. It's important that we have a very clear flight plan in what we're delivering, which I think brings us perfectly. Let's look. Yeah, this elements of a good article.
Yes, please.
So let's look into where we go with that. There's going to be variations, of course, because every communication is different. But this is a general guideline that I like to tell people. So let's begin with our headline. We have less than 3 seconds to capture the attention of our readers. So we really have to put some time into that first big, bold piece that they're going to see, because it's what's going to ultimately decide whether or not they're going to stick around and read what's coming. Right? Next, we've got our tagline. A lot of people overlook this. This is just kind of like a little headline that continues the draw in. It gives them a little tiny taste of what this article is going to be about. So I'm a big fan of the tagline. Then we've got our intro. Would
that be the first paragraph, or would that be sort of the blurb that's under the headline?
I think of it as the first paragraph. Some publications give you that little synopsis area, and I think that would technically be the 8th element. Because in those, I would really do a little bit more than the intro. You want to give a little bit more of a full picture look. But for this purpose, we're talking about the first paragraph, sometimes paragraph and a half, where we're setting the stage for what we're getting ready to talk about. We are establishing connection. We are painting a picture of what's to come. And we're basically teasing people to get them hooked and wanting to keep reading what we're going to talk about, right?
Okay.
So now we get into the subheadlines. So as we're reading through a piece of content, none of us want to just see a big block of copy, a big block of text. It's overwhelming. You don't know what to do with it. It feels very long, even if it's not. So subheadlines are an organizational tool, what we were just talking about with structure. If you approach your written content with these in mind, then you simply go in and fill in the blanks in between them. And it not only helps you from the creation process, but it helps your audience know what's coming and what to expect. And all of us tend to, we glance through things and we zero in on what matters to us.
Right.
Subheadlines are where we can do that.
Yeah. So do you actually write those before you write the body of the text?
I do. And it's not to say that if they're not set in stone. Sometimes they will definitely shift, but I find that it helps me if I have a topic. I think of the 3 points I want to make about it. Those are my sub headlines to start. And then I work outward from there. The headline often being the last piece that I write.
That's exactly what I do when writing a speech. So if you've got a speech that you're converting to an article, you've already got a big chunk of this structure.
Exactly. If you've done it right, right?
If you've done it right. Yes. Hopefully you've done it right. Right. Okay. Sorry. Please keep going.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. And we get to our body of this is the meat and potatoes of the article. This is why you're here. This is where you're delivering your content. This is where you're providing value and education and delivering your message. And we're going to get to body much more in depth in a little bit. So I won't spend a lot of time there. Finally, we've brought it full circle with our conclusion. And this is important because you wouldn't just leave your audience hanging. You don't want to just make your points and be like, there you have it.
Yeah. Tell us what you want us to do.
Exactly. So we want to do a quick wrap up. We want to remind them of the value that we just provided to them. And most importantly, we want to have that call to action, because from a business perspective, we are all writing for some sort of purpose. And it doesn't have to be salesy necessarily. But we need our readers to know what we want them to do, right?
Yeah. I think of it as enrollment instead of sales. Although I've gotten over thinking of sales as a dirty word.
Me too.
As long as you're enrolling people into understanding and following you.
Exactly. Yes. And it doesn't have to, a call to action. This is something that I've heard, that people hear call to action and they think it's, sign up now or pay money now. It can be as simple as comment below and let's have a conversation, or reach out and connect. It doesn't have to be, it can be as big or as small, as subtle as you want. We just need to end with something we want them to do.
It also gives people a clue that this is the end. You expect it to sort of wrap up. And this is true if you're doing a speech within an organization and you're writing an article for the company newsletter. It kind of puts a period at the end of the sentence, if you will. Yes.
That's a perfect way of thinking about it. I think I think of articles where you finish the article, but it doesn't feel like it's finished, and you're looking for like the continued on page 76.
It feels unfinished and uncomfortable when that's not really finished.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah. So and the last thing is our contact information. This is sometimes called a boilerplate. This is just because a lot of people forget we need to give our readers a way to get in touch with us, whether it's our website, whether it's our email, whether it's our social media handle. We need to provide that information.
Especially if you're Maria, you want to show people, if they've read the article and they say, great, I need to set up my will, or I need to alter my trust, revise my trust. You've got to give them the information on how to find Maria.
Exactly. That's that call to action. I want to go back for a quick second and take a little bit deeper look at the body, because that kind of is what we're talking about with Maria.
It's actually the main part of the article. Yes.
The main part of the article. So here we go. Like what we already know that the body is about delivering your message. You've got the pieces that you want to make sure that your audience knows. But there's so much more than that in a successful article, because the body is your main opportunity to connect with your audience and to use words that feel authentic to you. And you want to, let's say in a speech, for example, you're using a lot of physicality. Your audience is looking at your facial expression. They're looking at what you're wearing. They are noticing if the other people are laughing or not.
Yes.
There's a lot of external things happening. So that's why it's really important, the words that you use. Going back to what we said earlier, writing with your audience in mind. You know, this is when you really want to be conversational. You want to write in a way that you would speak to them. This is not the time to pull out all the jargon and the industry talk and the long, boring stuff.
Right. Again, not so much how, more why.
Right. Right.
Yes.
So the body is also letting know, like, and trust. And I'm sure it's the same in written communicate or in spoken communication as well. The body is the main place that your audience is getting to know you. Again, with all of those external factors taken away, all you have is the words that you're putting out there and how you're putting them out there. So there's a lot of opportunity in the body.
How do we make it interesting? You were talking about making it interesting. How do we do that?
Well, we spice it up.
Okay.
You want to give you're the one who shared this.
I use this simile a lot, this metaphor a lot when I'm talking about making a speech interesting. Is if you have the main body of a speech or an article, it's kind of like you've boiled up some spaghetti and you've thrown a can of tomatoes on it. That's the basics. And it's edible, but it's boring. What makes it interesting and what brings people to your door, gets people to follow you, is when you spice it up. And Erin, you were telling me a story the other day about a client of yours who learned this by working with you.
Yes. So last year, I had someone approach me. His name is Stephen. He is a fractional COO, which is a Chief Operations Officer. He is a wonderful person. He's just great. He is a self-admitted systems and processes nerd. What we were talking about earlier, he gets really excited and passionate when he's talking about solving people's systems, internal problems. And he is a really well-known speaker in his industry. And he goes around to a lot of the large conferences and gives keynote speeches. He runs educational workshops, all the things. Well, he got the idea year before last to convert some of his most popular speeches into articles.
Which is exactly what we're talking about today. Yes.
Yes. And you're thinking, yeah, you absolutely need to be doing that. The articles didn't get the engagement. They didn't get the conversion. They just fell flat. They failed in a lot of ways to him. And so when he approached me, he said, I've had a realization. I am really, really good at what I do. I'm really passionate about it when I talk about it. I cannot get it to sound fun or engaging or interesting when I write about it.
Ah, yes.
And he's like, I need to figure out how to convert what I'm doing on stage to the articles I'm publishing. So
I understand that one. That's me. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So
I can talk all day long, but writing it, that's hard.
Yeah, it's all about spicing it up. So let's talk for a second. Concocting your special blend, and we don't need to go through all of these, because the beauty of this, and an analogy I use here is, we all have our favorite Italian restaurant, and we go in and everyone says that their secret sauce is the best.
Right.
You know, it's the combination of this and this and this, and they're all delicious. Yeah. And that's because they all are their own unique blends, and our writing is the same, and we don't want to mimic what anyone else is doing. So it's important that we take time to really explore what we're doing. These are just 5 ways that that I enjoy really personalizing written communications. The first is stories, and this ties in a lot with jargon and conversation and entertainment. Stories are our human element. They're our way of connecting with our audience.
This is why we were talking about Maria, the estate lawyer, right? That's a story.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly. We started this so everyone can understand the real life vision that we're talking about. Everyone can see themselves both as the reader and the listener, but also as Maria.
Yes.
We've all been in all three of those roles.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty. When we lead with stories, I often like to lead with stories, but also just including them in our communication. It does wonders for connection, that know, like, and trust. So really being open and allowing our personalities to shine through, entertaining, using words that are authentic to us, keeping our readers engaged. That's the main thing. Changing perceptions. That's one that I think some people overlook. So,
and actually, Erin, I want to specifically ask you about that, because this is something you talk about that I haven't heard a lot of people express the way you express it.
Oh, thanks. The changing perceptions is the fact that 75% of people will buy from the person who changes their perspective. And when I say buy, I'm not necessarily meaning even, a product, but I'm saying they will subscribe to that person. They will
buy in, maybe.
Buy in. That's probably a better way of putting it. So they will pay attention to the one who changes their perception. And here's kind of what I mean when we're talking about Maria. There are thousands, tens of thousands of estate attorneys, right? The same way for most of us, there are a lot of writers, there are a lot of speakers.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to just communicate messages that everyone else has communicated in the ways that they've communicated them. We want to be dialed into what's being said. We want to pay attention to how people are presenting it. But at the end of the day, we want to take bits and pieces that resonate the most with us, and we want to finagle them into a new way. We want to put our puzzle together in a different way so that the information we put out, what Maria says, we want to let people think, oh, that makes sense.
I never thought of it that way.
Yep. I've read all about estate planning, or everyone has said I need to get my will done, but I never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so and it doesn't have to be anything big and profound and reinventing anything, but it needs to be unique to you, and it needs to be a way that people haven't expected before.
And that is actually why, even though there are so many people talking about the same thing that we talk about, our particular flavor, our mix of spices, if you will, is what's going to make people beat a path to our door, our restaurant, because that combination resonates.
Absolutely. That's the key, is that no one, and it sounds very, I don't know the word for it, but no one is you, and that is your superpower.
Yes.
And I know we hear that a lot in like the coaching world, but it's very true. No one, it can be very limiting when you think, well, everyone's already talking about that. Mm-hmm. No one's talking about it the way you are.
Exactly.
The last one is
cliche because it's true.
It is. It's very true.
That's what cliches are for. Yeah.
The empathy thing is just what we talked about earlier. It's all about putting yourself in the shoes of the people reading the article the same way you would the ones in the audience in a live speech. Always presenting your information, knowing who they are, what they want, and how you can be the one to deliver it to them uniquely.
So if we apply this to Maria, what could she do of all the things we've talked about?
Well, here's in a nutshell, this is kind of what we have said from the beginning. 1, writing with her readers in mind. Mm-hmm. 2, building that connection, making sure she uses stories to let people get to know her as beyond an estate planner.
Mm-hmm.
3, not pushing back on structure. It's really important that she realize and just trust that is what gives her the impact and the freedom that she's wanting with her message.
Yes.
4, spicing it up and making it her own. An example I use here is we all put on clothes every day, but we're not all putting on the same clothes. It's a self-expression. Your communications are the same. You want to bridge those gaps that you're missing from being in front of a live audience. Using
so bridge
your
the
words.
gaps between you and your readers.
Yes, and bridge the gaps between that you were relying on in your speech, your physicality, your look, your connection with the audience. Yeah. You have to use words to bridge those gaps now.
Yeah.
And finally, don't forget the call to action at the end. Readers need to know what you want them to do with your information.
Yeah. So key takeaways for all of us are what?
The key takeaways, let's see. Leveraging the mediums. This is what we started with. That's why we're here. And that's if you're not using all the available opportunities that you have to deliver your message, you're missing out on revenue, on impact, on clients, all of the above. Second one is that there's a big difference between spoken and written communication. On the surface, they're very similar. And we have discovered lots of similarities, but it's those little tiny differences that if they're ignored, it adds up to big gaps, right? Mm-hmm. Third, we've got the implementation. This is big because it's a big difference between knowing the differences, understanding, you finished talking with us today and okay, we know that there's differences, but what are you going to do about it? Yeah. Making sure that you take action to make sure you're capitalizing on them.
This is one that I find is that, I'm much more comfortable talking about things than I am about writing them. And if it's up to me to write an article, unless I have someone like Erin helping me, I will put it off and put it off and put it off.
Exactly.
Because it's not a medium I feel confident in. I'd rather talk. I know I can do that.
Well, and I think that's how most of us are. And I think that's kind of a real sign of, the growth when we realize like some things we want to learn for ourselves and we want to become very proficient. And if that's, what feels best to people, then that's what they should do. They should learn the difference. They should implement them and excel. But I think when I know the differences, it's not my strong suit. I'm going to delegate and call in the experts because this is someone else's zone of genius.
Well, and the other part of this is for all of us is we don't have to do it alone. Because Erin and I have really collaborated on creating this. And I've also reached out to an awesome graphic designer who's made the slides way better because that's not something I'm really good at. And we didn't do it alone. We helped each other. I'm using Erin's expertise. She's using my expertise. And certainly when I need to publish an article, which I really am going to do, I promise. I really am going to do. I've been putting it off, but I'm going to do it. I get someone like Erin to help me make it better. You don't have to do it all yourself.
I think that's getting fresh sets of eyes on things.
Yes,
is a very underrated thing. A lot of times we can when we're too close to it, it can be very difficult to do. Someone today used the example to me. You can't see the label from inside the bottle.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I thought, that's it. And so getting the fresh set of eyes, even if it's not something, even if you are good at it, even if it's always good to have a second set of eyes.
Yeah. So Erin, how do we learn more about you?
Well, my website is erinthomascommunications.com. I would love to hear from anybody. I am Erin Thomas Comms on all social media. Feel free to reach out and connect. I'm always looking to meet new and interesting people around the world.
And we will publish a link to her page in all the medium where we're going to post this. We'll publish ways that you can learn about Erin. And so, Erin, thank you so much for having been a guest on Strategic Speaking for Results. This is part 1. And if you stay tuned, we will tell you how to find it. We will tell you once this is published, how to find part 2, where Erin's going to interview me about how do you go the other direction? If you've written the article, how do you make it into a speech? This has been Strategic Speaking for Results. My guest was Erin Thomas. I'm Elizabeth Bachman. I'll see you on the next one.